So let me say first, just in case you didn't see it in the comment that I left in the Lonzo Ball video today, the My GM series and the My Career series are going to be on like an every other day sort of thing. I'm just giving the Lonzo Ball series 2 days in a row just because, it just came out and all that. Anyway, we're going to talk about Donovan Mitchell here. Funny enough, right after I make a video saying that Ben Simmons should be the Rookie of the Year over Mitchell, he goes out and has like one of the best games that a rookie has ever had in the NBA. Against, who was it, the Spurs, where he hit all those insane shots with like a guy in his face and all that. His percentages are actually not beautiful looking at them now from that game, but whatever. Here's what I want to talk about with Donovan Mitchell. What's his ceiling, Not even his ceiling, I guess just what's a prediction for how good he's going to be in like 3 or 4 years, right? And I think you got to start off with the scoring potential. I mean, can he be a 25 to 30 point scorer? I think it's pretty possible, honestly, just because of the point totals that he's been having this season. I mean, the amount of games he's had of at least 20 points or so as a rookie is pretty damn high. As for the exact number, I don't know, but just in the month of March, he's had like 10 games, so there you go. I think what you start off with him is his ability to get to the basket. He shoots 64% at the rim, and the majority of his shots this year have been at the basket or from 3, so that's a good sign for today's NBA. And the thing with Mitchell is like his burst of speed is really something, right? I've seen some comparisons to Damian Lillard for him. I think he and Lillard have similar athleticisms when it comes to like jumping and finishing at the rim and all that. I think Lillard has more burst with the ball in his hands. I might be wrong on that, but that's just the impression that I've gotten. But I think Mitchell isn't too far under that. And he's got real moves. I mean, he's effective in the pick and roll. I don't have the exact percentage of where he is in the NBA in the pick and roll this year, but whatever. He looks good doing it. And if a big man steps up on him, he can blow past the guy pretty easily. And if he gets a head of momentum, even if a big backs up on him, he can still probably get by him as well. And we saw it really early on this season, like even before he really took on this role of being the Jazz primary option on offense. He was never afraid to get to the rim. You see sometimes where rookies, they don't penetrate too often for whatever reason. It's definitely not the case with Donovan Mitchell. And I think we're also seeing the natural progression with that for him, just attacking the rim so much in the amount of free throws he's shooting. I mean, in the month of March, he's shooting about 5 free throws a game, and that's gone a bit up as the season has gone along. So, I mean, if the dude's just going to constantly be beating defenders off the dribble and then drawing contact, and he's a pretty big dude at 215, then that's going to allow him to generate some extra points every game. I mean, against the Kings, he was 10 for 10 from the free throw line, So he can beat defenders, he can finish, he can get fouled. Then we got to talk about the three-pointers. Now, truth be told, his threes have been a little erratic this season. He is actually shooting 29% from out there in March, and there are some months where he's nearly at 40%, and there are other months where he is as low as almost 30%, or, in the case right now, even a little under that for March. So I think we maybe have gone a little too crazy with his three-pointer, but at the same time, the threes that he's attempting are really difficult ones. And you would hope that if Utah just had other guys who could generate some offense, that he wouldn't have to take so many threes that are like pull-ups on the pick and roll or with a guy in his face. I also think he's made enough contested threes to show that if he just works at it, he can be a real threat from out there. But I wouldn't just pencil him in for being like a 39% three-point shooter. I think he could be a 35 to 36 at the most type of three-point guy, which is totally cool if you're going to attempt like 5 or 6 a game. Like, you could argue that shooting league average while attempting that many threes is still really good. I mean, I remember last year Westbrook Westbrook shot like 34% from outside, but he also attempted like 7 a game. And it's like, well, with that volume, that percentage is actually pretty okay. So I think Mitchell could still be okay there. And I think one part of his game that's a little underrated is his pull-up game. So the majority of his shots do still come from 3 or at the rim. However, when he's been forced into pull-up jumpers, I think while it hasn't been great, it's been good enough to believe he can be something from there as well. He's shooting 47% on long two-pointers, and he's attempted about 120 this season. But also, if we just look at his pull-up shots per game, he's attempting about 7, which is among the league leaders already, and he shoots 35%, which doesn't sound very high, but it's honestly not far off from guys like Russell Westbrook or Devin Booker or, hell, even DeMar DeRozan or Damian Lillard. It is like 3 or 4 percentage points lower, but given that he's a rookie, I think that's a pretty okay starting point. I mean, an insane percentage on pull-up mid-rangers for guys of that volume is like Kyrie Irving, who's at 46%. I don't know if Mitchell's ever going to get to that point, but still, I mean, if you have a guy who has already shown that he can beat defenders in one-on-one situations, can shoot at least league average on 5+ attempts from 3 a game, can hit pull-up mid-range jumpers when the big guys back up off of him, and can get to the free throw line for, let's say, a solid 6 or 7 shots a game from there. I mean, those are all the makings of a 20 to 25 and maybe even more than that scorer in the NBA today. Which, of course, is really good. Now, is there some reason to be skeptical? I mean, I'm trying to find a real concrete red flag, and I can't totally find it. Like, in college, he shot 80% from the line. And he shot 35% from outside in college as well. And when I'm seeing the degree of difficulty he's attempting on these three-pointers, I have to think those are probably going to get easier with time. Yeah, I can't think of a stone-cold reason to believe he can't get to that level. So he should be a really gifted scorer. If we can get to some of the other parts of his game, I guess we can go to the passing. I think he's shown some quality stuff as a playmaker. Do I think he could ever be a leader of an offense sort of deal? I mean, kind of in the new age of doing that, where you can be a big scorer who has the ball all the time, and you only pick up like 5 or 6 assists a game. Sure, I mean, we've seen that with Lillard, Isaiah Thomas, Kyrie Irving. It is possible to do that. I think if Mitchell becomes like a really good off-ball player where Quinn Snyder has him moving around, which, I mean, Quinn Snyder has a very high-motion offense with a lot of passing and cutting and handoff plays and off-ball screens, so I would imagine that that's a fair expectation. Then that would be the thing that could allow him to really lead an offense, because if you're not going to get all those assists, then you got to do it through spacing and all that, right? So I don't think he'll ever be a big-time playmaker, but a solid one is really all you need today. And then, of course, his defense is very good, right? I mean, that was his thing coming into the league was, well, he's a defender, and he's showing off the defense. But then, of course, the offense has gone up to a different level. I think Mitchell's very good, you know? And I know I didn't pick him for Rookie of the Year over Ben Simmons, but I also said that if it wasn't for Ben Simmons and this was a more typical year, he probably would have won the Rookie of the Year, you know? So, yeah, and there's a chance he could still win it anyway, and I'm not faulting anyone for picking him over Ben Simmons. I think it's very close. So, yeah, Mitchell's good. I think a question for Utah would be if he can play with Ricky Rubio long term. They have been figuring it out lately. And maybe Quinn Snyder just has the recipe, but I do kind of fear that the spacing problems that Rubio, Gobert, Favors, that those guys had earlier in the season, I do fear that stuff may come back, but who really knows? I mean, can Mitchell be a point guard? Can he be the primary option all the time? That was kind of redundant English, but whatever. I don't know. Maybe a shooting type of point guard would be better next to him than Ricky Rubio would be. And I think I would actually put myself on that side of the conversation. I do think a shooting point would be better next to Mitchell than Rubio, just because, Mitchell should have the ball in his hands more than Rubio should, right? But we'll see what happens with Utah. He's good, no doubt about it. And yeah, that's it.